I wanted to start this episode by saying I am so excited to be sitting here with my friend Paul from the Avast podcast. He's doing to pirates what I'm doing to animals right now, which is like pop culture and history and science and all the cool things. Just following the threads wherever they go. Paul, why don't you introduce yourself and something cool about you? This is why I don't do guests.
You're doing great. Yes, my name's Paul. I have a podcast called Avast. You cannot hear probably in my voice what a big gushing fanboy I am right now. I'm like the 15-year-old kid who's like wants to ask a girl to the prom and just can't really look her in the eye.
Aw. Aw. Thanks. I feel the same way. This is so exciting for me. So like I have been looking forward to this all week. So yay. So we over the last couple of years have become friends over Twitter through our podcasts and just have been fans of each other's work. And one thing that we have been wanting to do for a really long time together is roast a dog show together.
Yeah.
The problem, I don't want to get sued by having a dog show going on the screen and the two of us getting in trouble. Also, I get, as you might see through this presentation, really angry at certain things that happen. So I thought instead I would ease in with a slide presentation with some stuff about dog shows. And then tie in some other fun things. Paul does this pirate podcast. And there is actually a dog that ties into pirate history that I would like to introduce him to. And then have a couple of other fun things there at the end. Resources will be, as always, in the links, the description of the episode. And I guess we should just get going. Do you have any thoughts or things that you want to get off your chest before we get into playing with dogs?
No, I'm excited to learn a lot of things that I have never known about dogs before in my 74 years of life.
Let's do this thing. I'm so excited. Okay. So, oh, wow, I've got the video in a horrible place.
By the way, I'm not 74 years old.
I didn't think you were. I was going to say you look great, but I wasn't sure if that was a joke. Oh my gosh. So before we get started up here, if you're watching on the Patreon feed, you'll actually get to see the slideshow. I think we will be describing a lot of what is on the screen, so that way it'll still work for an audio audience. We'll find out if it works or not. But I wanted to first start by saying because all good podcasts start with a great disclaimer. I am the vice president and co-training director of the New England Dog Training Club. It is the oldest AKC obedience club in the country. It is important to note right from the jump that obedience is not conformation. Conformation is what we're going to be talking about today. The beauty show, the pageant with the dogs walking around in the big circle and somebody touching them and saying, this is a good dog. What I do with obedience is, well, I don't do competition obedience, but I work with competition obedience trainers who will like throw a dumbbell and then the dog has to go find the right one that has the scent. And lots of healing, lots of walking in bigger circles. Any dog can do obedience, but purebred dogs only can do conformation. Additionally, conformation, the dog has to be intact, which means they are not spayed or neutered. Bob Barker, dated reference, would not be pleased.
He's still alive, isn't he?
Oh God, no, he died.
Did he?
Yes, he died like a long time ago. Remember Happy Gilmore, where he's like,
yes,
yeah, the price is wrong, bitch. So after he died, there was a lot of that image going around.
Oh,
yeah. So rest in peace, Bob Barker zombie from like 20 years ago.
He hasn't been gone that long.
It's been a while. Oh, what's his name? Cleveland Rocks, comedian from Cleveland, big glasses, used to do oh my God, whose line is it anyway? Oh shit, that guy.
Oh,
anyway,
Drew Carey.
Yes, Drew Carey. He's been doing Price is Right for, I want to say, at least 8 years. So
I got good news for you.
yeah.
Bob Barker is 98 years old.
Wait, what? He's
Bob
alive?
Barker, he's alive. He's 98 years old. He'll be
He just
95.
retired?
Well, I don't know. That's what Google says.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry, Bob Parker. I thought he's been dead. I thought they buried him in that big wheel. Okay, moving right along. So these two dogs, my dog Captain and your dog Nissa. Tell me a little bit about Nissa.
Uh, sure. She, her name's Nisha.
Nisha,
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Nisha. It's okay. We got her from the Humane Society. She's a rescue, and she's the goodest girl. Her name means black, or no, wait, black, either black or night. I think night in Sanskrit, because she's all black, and we didn't want to give her a name like Shadow or Midnight or anything dumb. So my daughter came up with Nisha, and her full name is Nisha Ellen McCheese. She is about 5 years old. We got one of those little DNA testing things a couple years
Oh yeah.
ago, because we wanted to see what kind of dog she was. And the little wisdom DNA panel came back, and it said that she is 25% Australian cattle dog, 25% Australian Coolie,
Ooh.
and then the rest of it is lab, boxer, and border collie.
Dang.
Yeah,
Does she sleep?
a lot.
Good. I'm glad that the recessive traits came through for you. Funny, I'm also Googling. It says that Nisha also means Barb Barker lives in Gaelic. I had no idea. So, so when we're talking about these beauty pageants, as it were, like these confirmation trials, these confirmation events, there are different organizing groups. There's the AKC, which is the one that I technically work for. There's the UKC, which is also based in America, and KC, which is the United Kingdom Kennel Club. I'm only going to speak to the mission of the AKC because that's the one that I am particularly affiliated with. And it would go really long if I went into everybody else's mission statement. But the mission of the AKC education is to provide dog fanciers, dog owners, and the general public quality education about purebred dogs, the sport of purebred dogs, whatever that means, and ongoing importance of the relationships between people and canines. And they specifically say on their website, quote, breed to improve.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you can.
What's the difference between a dog fancier and a dog owner?
I think, and I'm probably going to get a lot of email for this. My understanding as a dog fancier is somebody who like is into breeding, is into a breed.
Okay.
Whereas like you and I are just like plebes, dog owners, and then general public are people who don't have dogs. That would be my guess. But I could be completely wrong. They need to educate about what that is in their mission statement.
I do fancy a dog.
I fancy all the dogs.
Yes.
It's some of the people I have a hard time with. So breed to improve, I think that is going to be a thing that is going to be said many times throughout today's.
It's a little problematic, isn't it?
Oh, little. Yep. Yep. Okay. And you're about to find out why I don't have a dog specific podcast because nobody's going to want to listen to me raving mad for an hour. So the problem. So again, breeding to improve. This is on the American Kennel Club website. It's a picture of what appears to be a Lhasa Apso. And this was when I Googled I used their search function. Does the AKC approve line breeding? Paul, do you know what line breeding is?
No idea.
think of the British royalty. Like, it the family tree doesn't fork very much.
It's a stump.
It pretty much. And so what happens is you have, in order to get a breed, so if you're looking at something like an Irish setter, in order to get that red coat and that particular look of an Irish setter that is exactly as tall as this book says the dog has to be, you have to breed genetic likeness to genetic likeness. And at some point, the pool gets really small. And so then you can only breed back and forth. And at some point, with some of these dogs, they are always breeding with a relative in some way.
Oh, yikes.
Right. So this is you see this highlighted bit. I'm going to have you read, if you can, the blue highlighted, which is on the AKC website about line breeding.
We're already going into Game of Thrones territory.
Little Targaryen-y.
It says, you didn't want your lowlife cousin to come to the party, but he came uninvited with your sister. Dog breeding can be like that. Some relatives can't be avoided. Genotype, the genetic makeup of a dog, involves the extended family.
So I will say that AKC frowns upon and outright says you cannot breed daughter back to a parent or son back to a parent. Grandparent is fine. Breed to improve. I will never, ever, ever, for the rest of my days, forget. I was at a function with a bunch of other dog trainers. There was a super famous person in our industry at this event, and we were all getting to meet her. And I had made some comment about line breeding in the AKC at this AKC club dinner. And most of us are in just obedience and don't do conformation. But a couple people do, including the one woman who got really mad at me when I made jokes about line breeding. By the end of the night, she really did blow up at me. And it was really like, I thought she was kidding. And so I laughed at her. And then I realized, oh my God, she's serious. I need to recalculate, recalculating. And by the end of the night, we had to have a sit down conversation because like she is one of my employees, and not employees, but like we are on the same staff. And we came to an agreement that breeding back to parents is wrong. That was the only meeting ground that we could come to in regards to line breeding.
Wow.
So it is a hot topic. And if there are people who are listening who are what I assume are dog fanciers who encourage what they would call responsible line breeding, I don't think I will really ever be able to agree with that. I have seen the Habsburg jaw. I don't think that's something that is okay. But there you go. I will field emails.
It is, to me, it's a little bit interesting, and maybe we're jumping ahead a little bit, but
yeah,
to see like the way humans manipulate genetics in flowers, in vegetables, and also like in animals, and selecting for traits that they want, and and traits that they don't want in these dogs, and then you wind up with weird little dogs with mushed faces.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we will get to it. So what's really interesting too is that I didn't expect to go quite this dark. I thought we were just going to stop at incest, but the eugenics movement was inspired in large part from dog breeding and cattle breeding and chicken breeding and coming up with these very distinct breeds. And of course, Handel and his peas, but the poor guy was just trying to make peas and show how genetics worked. It was of these hyper breeding things for function that initially sparked the eugenics movement. So
yeah,
yay.
I mean that's where my mind immediately went when I saw breed to improve. Was that what it is?
Yeah.
Improve.
Breed to improve.
Yikes on bikes.
Yep. I suspect I know the answer to this. Have you seen this mockumentary, Best in Show?
It's one of my favorite things ever. I love Best in Show
It's
so
the
much.
best. It is my favorite movie. I can't wait to show Ace. But I will say, as somebody who has worked professionally with dogs, this is a documentary. This is real. Christopher Guest might have been trying to make a mockumentary, but overshot and basically made my real life. I have had clients who look and act exactly like the Busy Bee people. And I mean, I never had seen a person with two left feet, but like they really encapsulate the different kinds of people that you will see if you are in any kind of professional breeding sport. Which breeding sport. All right. Well, that seems like it's going to be in my other show, but but this show, hands down, my favorite. But I want you to remember how happy this movie makes you, because I'm about to ruin some dogs.
God. Okay.
All right, drink. Okay, Paul, what kind of dogs are these?
Well, if the slide is to be believed, they are either bulldogs or French bulldogs.
Yeah, when you see one of these guys, and I think you know where I might be going with this, but I want you to give me your initial reaction when you see these mushy little faces.
Cute-ish.
So I know everything that is wrong with these dogs, and I'm still like, oh my God, give me your face. Like they're wrinkly, they've got these short pushed in faces. Although like I did intentionally pick two of the cuter ones because there are ones that are so hyper bred that they are, I mean, even this is deformity, but and we will get to it, but the bulldog, this is my favorite fact. It is a bug, not a feature of the bulldog and the French bulldog. Did you know that they cannot produce live offspring without human intervention?
No, I did not.
They are, speaking of eugenics, they are completely man-made at this point. On their own devices, they cannot naturally mate because tab A does not fit to slot B. They can't do it. And when they do get a successful insemination by human intervention, yes, with the old turkey baster, they have to be born. More than 90% of them have to be born via cesarean section because their heads, we have bred them to be too large to pass through the vaginal canal. So these dogs, yeah. It gets worse.
The audio only people cannot see me just dying on video right now.
He grabbed his head with both hands and just passed out of frame.
It's insane.
Yeah, they cannot exist at all without human intervention on the front end and the back. They and we did this to them. Right. And within, I believe I read within 3 generations, we could fix it. So those breed to improve words that they're saying on their website has created a breed that cannot exist without human intervention on both ends of the birthing process. They are cute. But those wrinkles on the bulldog are sites of infection, skin infection, things like that. Their noses are so far pushed back. And I'm going to show you here a screen in a second that will actually show you a skull from like 100 years ago compared to now and the deformity that we have bred into them. They
Yeah.
can't breathe. They can't see.
Oh,
They're so square and stocky because the breed standard by the AKC says that they need to be able to be basically square and short and stocky. Great. But when you don't have specific degrees mentioned, what a judge who is not a veterinarian will see in this conformation ring during Westminster and Crufts and any dog show that you're watching, they're looking for the most hyper exaggerated version of that and say that's the one that is to breed standard. That is an exemplary thing. So with each generation, we are hyper breeding for traits that are actually harmful to these dogs.
so the traits just get more and more like pronounced and weirder and like
Yes.
Michael Jackson looking,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100% that. It's almost like body dysmorphia, but like the Munchausen's version of that. Like we people have body dysmorphia for these dogs, and we just keep hyper breeding, hyper exaggerating traits through each generation.
That is so messed up.
Yep.
Wow.
Eugenics bad. So this is my
Oh boy.
Paul, I'm so sorry. Okay. I'm actually going to have you. This is just a quick clip. This is from the New York Times, and the title of the YouTube video is Pekingese wins top prize at America's Dog Show.
Okay.
So this was from several years ago. I'm going to have you tell me what you think of every dog that goes through. I think there are 7.
Okay.
And they're very quick. Like they're only like a second or two. And then I'm going to go through and tell you what I think.
So do you want me to describe the dog or just
like your initial thing, like, oh boy, an Irish setter, like hey, he looks beautiful, or
Okay.
Look at that trot or whatever, or like the first thing that comes to your mind when you see each dog.
All right.
Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. Are you ready, computer? Oh, it's the Telegraph, not the Times.
Right now, you need to be
That
having
is
your divine moment.
German Shepherd.
German Shepherd, yep. That's a Doberman Pincher with a cropped tail and pointy ears. That is an Irish setter.
Yeah.
Flowy red coat.
He looks pretty happy.
Dalmatian, of course.
Uh-huh.
Lots, everybody knows what a Dalmatian is. Beautiful dog. That is a...
This is a Kerry Blue Terrier. They're a big
Terrier?
black. Yep, it's a Kerry Blue Terrier. Get a beard.
Okay. That's a Dachshund?
Uh-huh. Sausage dog.
A little goatee thing going on.
Yeah, he's got like a little beard.
That can't be. Okay, this is a little Pekingese. All right. There's a walking dust mop.
So instead of playing it again, it is a walking dust mop. This is actually what I will actually show you this here in a second. But instead of playing that video again, because I don't think the audio is going to sound great, the first dog that came through is the German Shepherd, and that is the reason I am no longer allowed to watch the dog show on Thanksgiving with my in-laws.
No,
because the breed standard says that we aim for a slightly sloping back, and that helps the dog with its job of herding and protecting. The American German Shepherd is so poorly bred with a spine that slopes so much they can't walk. Their hips don't fit in their socket. Many of them have hip dysplasia, and their knees knock. And that dog had knocking knees. And I am not a vet, but if Sip were here, she would be crying at that dog. And that dog won best of breed and was able to go to best in show, like for those top 7 dogs. There's one from each group that is selected. And those are the ones that compete for the best in show prize for that year.
And then those dogs are like sought after, right? So
that's the stud.
Okay, yeah.
That's the good looking dog that like has a one. Ow, my back. I'm sorry, I can't tonight. My back hurts. Like it's that poor dog. And then we saw, I think the next one was a Doberman. Why we still crop their ears is bullshit. Like they are beautiful with floppy ears. If you've never seen a floppy-eared Doberman, you are missing out. They're the cutest things on the planet.
Oh yeah.
Those pointy ears, we cut them at birth, and then we prop them up with basically popsicle sticks and medical tape to make them look stick up and spiky. It is now illegal to crop tails and ears in the UK. It is not illegal in the United States. So if you're in the UK and you want one of these dogs, this is not an advertisement to buy American bred Dobermans. Good God, please don't. But that's how they can get them in. They can buy them from out of country, but they can no longer breed in country. The third one, I think, was the Dalmatian. 30% of them are blind because breeding for those spots specifically, and they had such a small gene pool to create the Dalmatian and to keep the breed alive that they are so inbred that 30% of them are blind.
Oh my gosh.
Like
lights out, totally blind.
Like they have degenerative disorders in their eyes that eventually lead to blindness.
Oh man,
some of them are born blind, but
wow.
And then the Kerry Blue Terrier, that's actually a pretty healthy dog, so I can't shit all over that. The Dachshund, if you start to look at the Dachshund over the years, it gets longer and longer. So their knees, their hips, their back. I mean, same, but but they come out of the womb like that. That's a problem.
I remember seeing Dachshunds even when I was a little kid and thinking, that doesn't look right. That doesn't look like the way things are supposed to be.
Do you know why they look like that though, and what they were bred for?
I'm gonna guess that they were bred for, like, maybe hunting rats or squirrels or something like that, and getting
so close. So close. Yes, it does have to do with holes. Hold on. Ace is trying to figure out how to do bedtime. Can I watch 2 shows? Yes, you can. You can watch all the shows. Mommy's talking about dogs and drinking with her friends. You can do all the things that you want. It's fine. So the Dachshund is a German breed. The long back and short stubby legs actually served a purpose way back when they would dive into badger holes, grab a badger by the face, and pull it out of the hole.
Wow.
They are tenacious. They are, well, historically, they are tenacious. They are fearless. They are awesome surviving little dogs. Over time, though, when you put them in dog shows, you start breeding for a longer back and shorter legs, and then they can't do the job that they were bred to do.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Over time, their little legs get stubbier and their backs get longer, and then they're just little.
Yeah.
They're cute little mutants.
Yeah, the cute little mutants. That's the title of today's episode. So here's an example. So that one on the right, so the Pekingese is really what I wanted to bring your attention to today. The Pekingese 100 years ago, how would you describe the one on the left? This is from 1929, so about 100 years ago.
So the one on the left actually looks like a dog, a designer dog that you would see today with the mushed in face.
I thought you were going to say it looks like a dog.
It looks like a dog, but it's got the flat face, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like it already looks like somebody was like messing with the genetics. I can't imagine like that evolved from a wolf or something, you know?
Right. Do you remember those commercials, the Blue Buffalo one? I think they were Blue Buffalo, where they're like, inside every dog is the heart of a wolf.
Yeah.
And they would have these like hunting dogs jumping over logs and like going through a big tough stream with like a current, and then you feed the dog the food or whatever, and then it's got the wolf going howl or whatever on the side, and it's supposed to like evoke this thing. I always wanted them to do that. Inside of your dog is the heart of a wolf, and have a derpy pug walking into like a glass door.
That would be great.
Or like Captain licking where his balls used to be. Like, just like, what? Like, heart of a wolf. All right. So the dog on the left kind of looks like a toy breed, mixed breed dog that you would see today. It's got a little bit of a muzzle, although it does look like it was kind of bred to look a certain way. The tail kind of comes over the back. Its ears are up. It has a neck. Like, it has It has knees. Like,
You can look at that and identify it as a dog.
no, explain to me, Paul. What is on the right? A dog 100 years later, the same breed.
Okay.
I can't wait for this.
Do you remember the Star Trek episode The Trouble with Tribbles?
Yes.
Was that seriously your next slide? I had no idea. Wow. I cannot believe that was your next slide.
That was the next slide.
You know the little, the GIF or the GIF of like the little girl like tossing her hair back?
Yeah.
That's what that dog looks like.
Kinda, yeah. I think he looks like a fuzzy Ottoman with eyes, like googly eyes put on. He has no neck. You can't see his legs at all. There's the dog on the left. You can see that there's a back and then a neck and then a head. Like there are three distinct pieces. Here it's just a fuzzy loaf of bread with whites of the eye. That's all you can see.
So, okay, just a little, tangent. Dog on the right has to go potty.
And dog on the right, actually, and this is really sad, again, breed to improve. Dog on the right is in an air-conditioned arena. If you remember that video I played, all of the dogs were running with their owner, except for this one. The owner, the handler. So you usually have an owner, the breeder, and the handler. Sometimes the same person does 2 or 3 of the jobs, but usually there are 3 different people. The handler is the person who's paid to show the dog off as best as they can in the ring. Many of them are choking the dog, so they have to walk with their legs out, as opposed to like the Irish setter. At least that handler gave that dog leash, so the dog's like, hey, I'm having a good time. All the other dogs are like, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. This one, it doesn't matter how slow this guy walks, this dog cannot breathe. In an air-conditioned arena, this dog needed to sit on an ice pack to cool down after he won Best in Show. This was the winner. This, what did you call it? Happy little mutant? He's not even happy. This dog can't breathe. And then as Paul discovered, my next slide, it's Captain Kirk with the Trouble with Tribbles episode, which is exactly what that Pekingese from 2021 evokes. Did you know that he has a holiday album?
William Shatner?
Yeah.
I did not know that, but it's not surprising.
You're welcome. Your holidays were just made.
Oh, good Lord.
King Charles Spaniel, and you can see it. Okay, so what did you? Oh, good Lord! I not everybody can see the slide.
It looks like if you asked an AI generator to draw a pug that looked like Gene Simmons. That's what's on the right. Is what's on the left what it's supposed to look like?
Oh my God. The dog on the left was from about, I want to say a couple, I need actually my notes on this one because I can't remember what the, that was 1840, a drawing of the dog in 1840 versus today.
Yeah, so the dog on the left looks like when you would get a magazine and it would give you like pictures in the back and it would say, like draw this picture and mail the picture in. And
right.
Art lessons. That's what the dog on the left looks like. The dog on the right looks like just an abomination. Yeah,
it looks like it ran face first into a brick wall. Yeah. and just realized it did that. There's no muzzle. There's no muzzle. And the problem with not having a muzzle, aside from the obvious, it has no face. That would be like what you said before with Michael Jackson, like no nose, that's a problem. With this dog, we bred this dog to have a shorter and shorter muzzle and also bigger eyes. Like it's kind of hard to tell with this particular picture, but when we're breeding for certain smaller toy breed dogs, we are breeding for what appears to be bigger eyes. That's called neoteny. When you're looking at a bulldog, a French bulldog, a toy spaniel, like King Charles Spaniel. That's been a tweet that's been going around a little bit this week for reasons. We're not breeding for bigger eyes that humans look at and go, oh my God, it's so cute, I must take care of you. We're actually breeding for a shallower eye socket. And
we're breeding dogs to look like a roadie for Aerosmith. Oh my God.
And here's my favorite part. When you have these brachycephalic dogs, the brachycephalic are the pushed in face dogs. When you start to hyper exaggerate that and they have no muzzle like this, they can't cool off. That was the problem with the Pekingese. They can't sweat. So the more muzzle they have, the more air that can get in to cool them off through their mouth. When they don't have that, they can't cool off and they overheat. So that's a problem here. And the other problem is with the shallower eye sockets, their eyes sometimes just fall out.
Fall out? Like literally fall out?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Boing. So I'm breed to improve.
God. I feel so bad laughing at this dog. But, oh my God.
That's all I can do because I would be crying otherwise, which is usually what I'm doing at Thanksgiving, which is why they won't let me have the remote.
Yeah, also with me.
So right. And here are the skulls that I was talking about before. This is 100-year difference. So you can see here on the left, the skull has like an eye socket, and then it's got a little bit of a muzzle. Even then, it's still pretty shallow. The dog has a little bit of an underbite, but you can fit all of its teeth. When you look on the right, it looks almost like a human skull with like this really janky jaw.
Yeah.
It's so flat that it's almost human. And that's not surprising because humans made this happen. So yay. Yeah. So, and if you were to look at any dog breed between 1840 and today, you can actually Google, like, compare skulls of these two dogs in these 2 years, and you can pull up really cool images. And I would implore people to do it because it is really fascinating to see what we've done. As a result, with the Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, the last one you saw was the King Charles Spaniel. I don't know the difference. There is apparently one. I don't know. One is more cavalier, I guess. But the one on the with the Cavalier King Charles, we have bred their faces to be mushed in just like this, and their skull to be so small their brains don't fit anymore. So they are really at higher risk of neurological problems and neurological pain.
That is awful.
So how are you doing, Paul? I put up a picture of his dog just so he could have a breather.
My good girl, my normal looking dog.
Best. Look at the normal dog. Look at that.
Gosh.
Beautiful dog.
Her muzzle is all there.
It's completely there. Bob Barker would love your dog.
Her eyes aren't falling out.
Her whole brain fits.
Her whole brain fits. Always bonus little features that you like to see in a dog.
Eyes pop out, Paul.
That's just insane.
Boing.
To go back to the cropped ears thing.
Yeah.
I heard that the cropped ears started as like what people did when they would use their dogs to fight other dogs.
Often. Not just other dogs, but when they would be
like hunting.
Hunting is one, guarding, protection, things like that, even against other people, things like that. But a lot of it did come from fighting, dog fighting. So they would crop the ears so that way the other dog didn't have anything to grab onto. And so you'll see that with, unfortunately, backyard, what's called pit bull fighting, you'll see that their ears are sometimes just shaved almost off.
Yeah.
And that their ears are very, very tiny. And that really messes with the dog, obviously. And it also is aesthetic. Like, a lot of people still do it today because of the aesthetics of it, that they want the dog to either look to breed standard, which the AKC could fix. Hi, please fix it. because these dogs aren't being used for fighting anymore, maybe change the standard. It's easy to do. Or people just like, hey, this is tradition. I want my dog to look traditional. So you'll either have it for aesthetic reasons or for tradition reasons. And then they're like, oh, well, you know, for back in the day when these dogs used to do XYZ, it's like, well, they're not doing that anymore. That's also another excuse for docking tails in a lot of the spaniel breeds. You'll see like their tails are, some of them are born with naturally shorter tails, but ones that are born with longer tails, they will dock or cut off at the bone. It's an amputation. People say it doesn't hurt. It does. It's an amputation. Even if it's done the second the puppy is born, it still hurts. And when we used to do dog sledding, so I grew up in a sled dog family, we had 10 dogs. And we had a couple of accidental litters because leashes break and boy dogs like girl dogs. And when we would have those litters, my dad, because our dogs were working dogs, they were not show dogs, they would actually pull people on trails. These dogs that we, I affectionately called them an accidental dog sledding team, that we were an accidental dog sledding family. My dad's friend ran the Iditarod, came back, gave my dad 10 dogs, and then moved to Florida, and we never heard from him again. It's been over 30 years. But he spent his whole life trying to get there. He did it. He finished the race. And then he's like, fuck the cold. Peace. I'm outie. And he's just been like sitting with, I'm guessing, like a margarita and like following Jimmy Buffett for the last 35 years. Like, so I get off the bus one day and we've got 10 dogs and I'm like, best day ever. Like, I was like 8. But when we would get the husky puppies, my dad would amputate their dew claw. Do you know what a dew claw is?
It's like that little toe that like comes off of what would be our wrist. It kind of looks like.
Yeah. So a lot of dogs, we actually breed that out, which is great. For the ones that they're not bred out, they will either occur naturally and they're amputated, or you keep them and that's fine. Ooh.
Yeah, Nisha has those. I think it's just like a little toe pad there.
Yeah, it's a vestigial thing that doesn't really help them very much. What happens though is that they can get stuck in things. And if you're running your dog 10 miles by dog sled and that gets caught on a rock or in something and rips out, that's a problem. So we would amputate that when the puppies were like 2 or 3 days old. And even then, that was really painful for them, but it was less painful than dealing with a bleeding vein when you're 6 miles from medical help. Yeah. So that made sense because these were working dogs. When you're dealing with docking tails and amputating a bone, that actually changes the way that the dog moves. When you look at like an Australian Shepherd or a dog that has no tail and they're running, they almost run like a bunny. Their 2 back legs kind of kick out at the same time because they don't have a tail. They don't have that counterweight as a rudder. So when you watch another, like a fully tailed dog run, they have a different gait. Mm-hmm. They run differently. And so you're changing the physical behavior of the entire body by taking off the tail. So with many spaniels, they will dock the tail down to like a third of the tail. So it still has it. So it has a little flag on top. So that way when they see birds, they go flag and their tail comes up and starts to wave and the hunter can see it. And it doesn't catch as many brambles. It doesn't get stuck in stuff. But most people aren't taking their what's called bench bred or show bred or for pet use only spaniels out into the woods to hunt gamecock. Right. They're going out to like walk around Fresh Pond and go visit old people at a nursing home. Really, like the idea that this is for function is really bunk with most of the dogs that we're using today. We have 2 distinct lines of dogs for the most part. Show bred, and I'm going to get into it in a minute when I talk about border collies, and sport bred. So the ones that are actually working dogs, and they functionally look different and they behave differently because they're being used for 2 different things. But you have this cool podcast called Avast. Do
Yeah.
you happen to know this dog?
I do not.
You
Although
don't?
it looks a bit like my dog, the one on the right, anyway.
Yeah. So this, I'm so excited. I thought you were going to actually name it. And I was going to be like, oh, yeah, you got it.
Sorry.
This is called a Schipperke.
A Schipperke. Okay.
Schipperke. These dogs are so cool. They're often called a Spitz. And I am going to have to stop the slideshow in this way, like, and bring up my notes. But I'm going to have you describe this dog as best as you can, actually, before I start reading my notes.
Okay, well, this dog is all black, very furry, pointy ears. I don't see very much of a tail.
Correct.
It's got kind of a long body. Its back legs kind of stick out, kind of like they don't go straight down. They kind of like stick out a little bit further in the back.
Yeah, so he's got a lower sloping back.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
was thinking like hyena for a minute, like
Oh,
hyenas. kind of
yeah.
have that sloping back where they have the stocky front legs and the skinnier back legs, and they just kind of slope down. That's what this dog.
Yeah. So if you were to use these dogs on a boat, so this dog means little captain. Ship in Flemish means boat. And it's a Belgian breed. But the Belgians didn't call it a Schipperke. They called them a Spitz. And other Spitz breeds and called like the American Eskimo, which really needs to change their name for reasons. Which is a small white dog. Any small fluffy dog that usually has a curled tail over the back, that's double coated, like like the American small white dog is one of them. But these Spitz type breeds all tend to be very small and very feisty. Nobody really knows where the name comes from. They're guessing it's probably the Flemish for boat. But it could also be Schipper, which is shepherd. And this is a ratting and guard dog. Okay. And it's so small. It's like a 13-pound dog. They're not big, but they are mighty. They were common on boats back in the time that you're doing your show for vermin management and control. They were ratting dogs on boats. So in the same way that you might use a cat, if you didn't want to deal with like a middle finger all the time from your working cat that was just lazing around, you would get one of these guys. So their name means small boatman or little captain. They are mischievous. They are about 13 inches high. If you're 13.1, GTFO. And like many little dogs, they are actually great little watchdogs. So you know the mastiffs, right? Those big dogs, big lumbering dogs.
Sure.
They were bred to watch castles. If you pay attention to dog breeds in even a cursory way, you might notice that there's something called a Tibetan Mastiff, or like you'll have like a Neapolitan Mastiff. So you'll have like these big Mastiff breeds from all over the world, and there tends to be a little dog with a similar name. So I'll go with the Tibetans, the Tibetan Mastiff and the Tibetan Terrier. The Tibetan Mastiff is big and scary and a great guard dog and will mess you up, but it will sleep like the dead if your castle is attacked. So you have the Tibetan Terrier, who will wake up at the drop of a hat and go like Dino from the Flintstones and wake up the Mastiff so the Mastiff can go do its work. The biggest, I think, myth in having dogs, or when people are looking for dogs, is I want a small dog because they're easier. Do you ever want to sleep again? Little dogs don't, because they are more prey animal, they tend to wake up much easier, and they tend to be more startly. And as a result, they have that high-pitched voice that is bred to wake up lumbering mastiffs. And I guarantee you it'll wake you up from the dead of sleep.
Wow. That is so interesting.
So that is your guard dog.
Yeah.
Not the big mastiff. It's this guy. So these guys, and in my notes, weird that Europe hated rats given this little plague thing. Get over it already. Sheesh. So these dogs and other ratting dogs, mostly terriers, because terrier means go to earth. So Jack Russell Terriers, rats in the name. These were all really popular and still are in like all over the world. But the Schipperke, and I have had a couple of them in classes, are intense little buggers, but they are very funny. They're mischievous. They're very prey driven. And so I found them hard for my owners to have in cities, which I think is honestly why I only had like 2 or 3 over a 20-year career in Boston. They bark a lot. They're reactive. A lot of times if they don't have enough of a decompression time, which in a city you really don't. But if they are out in the woods or in the country, they would do really great. And they're going to be funny. What I didn't notice though, and I'm really excited to show this to you, and you might not have any point of reference. What do you think about these 2 dogs? One is the Schipperke, the small 13-inch dog. And then on the right is a 60 to 75 pound version of that little dog. Have you heard of the Belgian sheepdog?
I have not, no.
So Belgian sheepdog is a military dog. They came from the same dog and they branched off into 2 different branches of a tree.
Really?
So they both descended from the exact same extinct dog breed called the Leuvenaar. The Schipperke, they kept breeding it down over time. And then the Belgian Shepherd, they made bigger over time. And they are both formidable watchdogs and they're very predatory. So they use the Belgian sheepdog in the military and police work in other high drivey things, whereas the Schipperke is still used for keeping vermin away and as a watchdog.
Yeah,
it's the same dog, just big and small.
This is really like looking at the poster for the movie Twins with Danny DeVito and
Right. So yeah, it's crazy to me. And there are a lot of cases like that, like the Cocker Spaniel and the Springer Spaniel were the same breed at one point. One was just bred down to bounce out smaller birds, and one was bred bigger to bounce out bigger birds.
Wow.
It's the same breed that eventually branched off to be their own breeds.
I was on a podcast called For the Love of Nature, and we talked about...
I love them. And if they listen, Ace loves you.
I love them too. And we were talking about if pirates kept pets on ships, like dogs and cats. And basically what I said was that if you were going to have a dog or a cat on the ship, it couldn't be too big. And it would sort of have to fend for itself, meaning eat lots of rats, because rats were...
Yep.
But I didn't know that there was a specific breed that was preferred for that.
Yep, it's the Schipperke.
That's really cool.
Isn't it cool? I was so excited to share that with you. So we asked Twitter, hey, Paul and I are doing this thing. And then it kind of, I won't say it went south. It just went a bunch of different directions. But this one, I actually did want to bring up. J-Bomb, Jenny Japanime says, I'm really curious about border collies. I hear folks say that they're the, quote, smartest dog breed in the world. What's the story behind this notion? And can it be measured? Can it be measured? And is it true? I just enjoy hearing history of why certain breeds came into existence. Paul, what do you know about border collies?
Not very much. I mean, I know that they're a working dog, and they probably were bred to herd sheep or something like that,
or something. I can speak to an N of 1 personal experience with owning a border collie. I have her tattooed on my arm. This is Sadie. And she also lives behind me on my shelf over here. And I had her tattooed on my right arm because she's my right hand girl. She died several years ago, but she was my first dog that I had as an adult. When I got out of college, I said, when I get out of school, I'm getting a dog. And she was the dog that I got. She broke her leash at a party and introduced me to my husband, who reached over and was like, is this a border collie? I'm like, I love you. He's like, what? I'm like, oh, hi. Yeah, it's a border collie. It's great. Like, so yeah, Ace exists because of a border collie. And my whole career exist because of a border collie. So I would say for me, I think that they're the smartest breed, and I will never own another one again because, good God, I never want to be outsmarted by the dog in my house again. And that's why we have Captain. And I love him, and he's so sweet, and he's just perfect for us for now. I will never be young enough to be able to have a border collie again. So I will say with border collies, and remember I said that there was a difference between the show side and the working dog side.
Right.
Both of these dogs that I have on my screen right now are border collies. Do you see any difference between these two dogs?
I mean, there's a huge difference between the two dogs. The dog on the right, the biggest difference is the dog on the right is a lot like fluffier. And I don't know because of like, if they like, you know, do they blow dry the dogs?
Yeah, for sure. They definitely do get pretty. But even if you were to take the dog on the left, which has, yes, it's a long coat border collie, but even then its coat is fairly short compared to what the genetic intelligence of breeders are doing to show border collies. With the longer coat, they're breeding specifically for that coat. If you might not be able to see it here. Actually, this one doesn't seem to have any spotting either on the left, but usually working border collies will have multicolors. This one has like brown and black and gray and white. This dog is bred for function. This dog had two parents that did a job well, and those two dogs got to have babies to hopefully have a puppy that will do the job well. This border collie on the left is basically in a plank position, staring down a bull.
Yeah.
The dog on the right is called a Barbie collie. And that's what people affectionately or disaffectionately, depending on where you're coming from, will call showbred border collies. I personally have no skin in the game. I work with people who have pet dogs, so I don't usually see working border collies anymore. I'm out of sports. I'm not working with working line dogs anymore. I generally see the working line, the showbred ones, but there is a distinct, you can see the differences between them. The showbred one has much shorter legs. They're a little stockier. They're supposed to be pretty. They're pretty, and they're bred in theory to a quote breed standard so they can do their job, but they are a lot more social than the dogs in general, than the dogs on the left who are bred to work with a shepherd to do a specific task. Now, I have met thousands of working border collies, and they can be very social, but they also they listen to their shepherd. And if their shepherd is a little bit nervous, you better look out because they might think that you are the problem.
Does that make them easier to train?
They are incredibly trainable, but the problem is you constantly have to be training. It's like having a Mensa student in your house. And I will 1,000% say that Sadie was the smartest thing in our house for the entirety of her living with us. And that was to her detriment. Because living in a city, she was constantly getting more and more anxious because she was constantly overthinking things. And she was just, even though she had jobs to do, she didn't have enough to do in an apartment for 13 years. So I did the best I could, and I was working all the time with her, and it still wasn't enough to satiate this dog. And she was a calmer border collie for the most part. So even if you were to, the problem I think I have here is that when you're looking and you're comparing a working line dog and a showbred dog, and that happens with hunting dogs, with herding dogs, with sport dogs. When you're looking at the two lines, the ones that are bred for work and bred for show, the ones for show are supposed to be pretty. The ones for show have a more distinct look that the AKC and UKC and KC are kind of breeding to say this is allowing it to do its job. But I guarantee you, this dog might do herding trials, but it's not going to perform nearly as well as the dog on the left, who is actually doing the herding trials. It was actually bred to herd instead of bred to look like it herds. You know what I mean?
Yes. And I like that. the thing that I like is that the dog on the right, the Barbie collie, it actually looks like a dog. Like that,
Yeah.
it looks like you can look at that and say that looks like a dog and not some little, you know, thing with a mushed in face, and
Yeah.
it doesn't look like a genetic abomination.
Right. Where I get worried when I see things like greyhound racing, I am pro greyhound racing ending. Please do not get me wrong. But the problem then is that all of the greyhounds that will be bred will be no longer bred for function for running fast. Greyhounds are big, they are muscular, they are fast, and they are 40-mile-an-hour couch potatoes. They will sleep all day. It's great. Their heads are skinny, but it's for speed. Now that they are only going to be bred for show, I would bet my dog training certification on these dogs getting such skinny heads that their brains will also start to go wonky, that they will be bred for skinny, and that we're going to start seeing, and they already suffer from lots of broken legs because of the way that they're bred for speed. You're going to see an uptick in that. You're going to start to see a lot of other problems coming out of these dogs because they're now only going to be bred for show and not for fast.
Oh,
yeah,
that's awful.
Should I go back to that picture of Nisha and be like, how you doing, Paul? Okay, so I'm gonna make it a little bit, hopefully lighten the mood a bit. This is a dog breed.
Okay.
I want you to give it your best bet. I'm going to spell it first.
Okay.
XOLOITZCUINTLI.
Okay. I have to be careful because I don't know how much of a family show this is, and there's some.
I have a parrot that can bleep anything out.
There's some letters in very close proximity to one another,
Yep.
and I want to be careful.
Give it your best shot.
Zolowitz Quintly. How about that?
Nice save at the end. It actually wasn't that far off.
Oh, look at that.
Cholo eats quiently. This is the Mexican hairless dog.
Oh God.
Yeah, he's got a little mohawk. That one on the left, I do not want to meet it in an alley. It looks like a panther.
Oh my goodness.
It looks like a hairless panther.
And yellow eyes.
Yeah. This dog is really cool. This is the dog from the Pixar film Coco.
Okay.
And so that's where most people have seen it. So what do you think of this dog? Like when you first saw it, you had a reaction.
Yeah.
So what was your thought?
Well, there's two different dogs here. So the dog on the left looks like Satan.
It does look like something from a Stephen King
it looks
book,
evil.
doesn't it?
And the dog on the right looks like this kid that I went to high school with who was 19, but he was a sophomore, and somehow he was able to get a tattoo.
Oh,
exactly like Rich.
Did he have an uncle in prison? What happened?
It's probably.
Oh God, no. So I look at the one on the right.
Yes.
And I want to give it like gold chains and like the rest of the A team and be like, I pity the fool. Like he's got this cute little mohawk. He just like, yeah, he looks like he's Mr. T.
He does.
And then the dog on the left is very intense, but it is the same dog. I did kind of set you up to fail. Yeah, the ears for days on both of these dogs. They're really cool. They're like upright ears.
Yeah.
They're almost like bat ears. They're huge. They're really sweet dogs. I've met a couple, not many, because in Boston and in Maine, you might imagine they might not do well.
Yeah.
But they have no hair. And again, we bred for that. We eventually bred for that. But in places like Mexico and Ecuador, where you notice that they have darker skin, and so they're less prone for burning, although you do still have to take care in the sun, that you do have to take care of that skin. It's a lot more labor intensive, but I mean, they're going to be a lot cooler than say like a husky in Mexico. I did set you up to fail with the entire name of the dog. The Xolo eats quiently. All of those letters, most people just say Xolo, like you're a kind of like a slurring surfer, like Xolo, man. But that's the Xolo. And that is my presentation for you today, Paul.
Do they breed for those yellow eyes? Or was that like Photoshop?
That was real. They do have yellow as one of their breed standards for eye color.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they're really cool. They're really unique dogs. There are some really funky dogs out there. I think the long and the short of it though is when humans get involved, we tend to get extra. And when we're trying to one up each other, all we're really hurting is everyone else around us. And in this case, it's the dogs. So I hate adopt, don't shop, but that really is like, hey, maybe get a rescue dog. And they have their own problems too. So if you want me to ruin rescue dogs for you someday, I can do that. But but for the most part, as far as genetics and health are concerned, I caution people to be very careful. And when they say, I have a good breeder, I wouldn't just look at AKC paperwork as a definition of a good breeder, because it's not. It might be part of it, but it is certainly not the only thing people should be looking for.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, how
I
you
learned a
doing,
lot
Paul?
tonight. Doing good. I learned quite a lot tonight. That was really cool.
And that's the last time Paul's going to talk to me.
I hope not.
I ruined dog shows. But yeah, so like what of all of the things I talked about tonight, what sticks out for you today?
Oh man, I knew that breeding these dogs was causing like really bad physical problems in the dogs.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't realize to what extent.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and like how it just this idea of line breeding, is that what you called it?
Line breeding, yeah.
It just compounds those problems and just makes them worse and worse and worse. That was actually really disturbing. Like I knew that there was like when you see a pug and it's like, you know, walking around and it can barely move and it's snorting and stuff. And it's like, well, not normal, but
it's not normal. And a lot of people think it's cute. That dog can't breathe.
Yeah.
And funny thing about pugs, I got one more for the road. So the tail, if you notice in a pug that its tail is often curved.
Yeah.
And some breeders are trying to breed for what's called a double curl in the tail to like, oh, let's just see if we can make it go a little extra. And when you do that, you're actually breeding for a deformity in the spine that like really jacks up their spine. So like you're deforming their spine in order to get a double curl in the tail, which can lead to all sorts of problems, as you can imagine, and also ties into neurological issues with these dogs.
It's crazy.
Sorry, I know too much.
Oh no, don't be sorry. It's amazing. Like it's awful and sad, but at the same time, it's really interesting, and it just kind of like makes you really appreciate your rescue dog. So you can ruin rescue dogs for me another time. I
will ruin them another time, but not tonight, because go hug Nisha. She's perfect.
I'm going to.
I'm gonna go give Captain a cookie. I want people to know where they can find you and all of your stuff, and have at it. You do you.
Yeah. Well, I'm the host of a podcast called Avast.
It's one of Ace's favorites too, by the way. I've heard her. She For the Love of Nature is her favorite.
Oh.
I am a distant 700 in her podcast listening. For the Love of Nature is her favorite. And then when she knew you were doing another show, but then when you showed up on it, then she went and she figured out how to subscribe to her own shows after that, because she needed to find Avast, and she has been listening to it. So yeah, amazing. You've got another little fan here.
What a nice compliment. Holy cow. Thank you so much, Ace. So yeah, it's a show about pirates. You can get it anywhere you get podcasts. And that's it. That's pretty much what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, it's good to have you back.
Thank you.
Yay. So I guess we should just say stay curious and or go walk the plank.
There you go. I love it.
Awesome.